All right, welcome everyone to the first interview in our coaching series. We're very happy to be joined by Dathan Ritzenhein. Now, a lot of you guys know Ritz is a three-time Olympian, a 207 marathoner, World Half Marathon medalist, a former American record holder in the 5,000, but he is now the head coach of the On Athletics Club based in Boulder. OAC had a great year in 2021. They had 4 Olympians, a 5th if you count Morgan McDonald, who joined the team right before Tokyo. That included U.S. Olympians Joe Klecker and Alicia Monson, both in the 10,000 meters. Nathan's coming to us now from training camp in Florida. Thanks so much for making time to talk to us today.
Thank you, guys.
And I guess I'll start. I mentioned the 4 Olympian, 5 of which Morgan. How do you think 2021 went for you guys? Because that's pretty good for a team that's only been around, less than 2 years.
Yeah, we had we went out the gates really hard. So, but I was, it's kind of funny because you spend a lot of time with these guys and you know what they're capable of, but they delivered when it mattered too. And we had Ollie Hoare ended up being amazing, ranked 4th in the world at the end of the year, and he was just incredible. We had Joe and Alicia both step up at the trials and make it, which making the U.S. team is incredibly hard, especially for first-year pros. They're both, Alicia's 23 and Joe is 24. Well, now he just turned 25, but they were incredible. And so, and then we had Alicia Konachek, Polish steeplechaser. She made the team and ran 9:27, and it was pretty awesome. Sorry, guys, I got to switch inside. The pool guy just showed up.
All right, so you mentioned the great season your athletes had. I'm wondering, what do you think was the single best race or best accomplishment by one of your athletes last year, if you had to rank them?
Well, yeah, there's so many moments. It was kind of crazy. I think they surprised me sometimes just because it was a weird year when we were showing up with these races and COVID, and it was just a lot of times people forget, already because things are kind of back to normal, and we got these, we got normal meets going again. We got people running Milrose games and New Balance indoor. We have a World Indoor Championships on the calendar, but last year it was, we just didn't really have that same sense of normalcy and confidence that things were going to happen. So. I feel like we had a lot of moments that they weren't surprises. Maybe we didn't plan for them at the time. I think Ollie stepping out and running 3:32 in the indoor season, his first race out. Honestly, I was hoping that he would be to that point in the summer, and he stepped out and did it the first race. And we didn't even know if that race was going to happen until 2 weeks beforehand. And Joe and Ollie both ran that 5K, and Joe ran 13:06. And I knew he was fit, but we were relying on Jesse Williams to put on races, and if there's no other real good indoor races, and he just stepped out and ran 13:06 in March, and it was just one of those things where we took every opportunity we could, and so some of them surprised the heck out of us like that. But by the time the summer rolled around, we were just we were on fire. And so every time they stepped out, they were good. And it wasn't that you come to expect those things, but they were really locked in and confident. And I think we prepared them well. And so we had so many moments like that all year long, really.
And looking ahead to 2022, what new additions and subtractions do you have in the roster? How does your team look different than it did this time a year ago?
So, we have 10 people on the team right now. So the one person that's not on the team anymore, Emily Orn, she's no longer on the team, but she's been super helpful to us even afterwards. She took a job working at her alma mater, Hillsdale College, but she still lives in Boulder, and she comes out to practice every couple times every week or two. She'll come out and she'll be there supporting the team and stuff, but she retired from running. But at the trials last year, we did announce that we signed Sage Herda from University of Colorado, and Carmela Baez from University of Oregon, both NCAA champions. And then we also signed Morgan McDonald, and a great runner, for Wisconsin, and he was already living with Jordy and Ollie and Carlos before that, and so someone we already knew well. But we added those 3 people, and now we coming into this year with 10 people on the roster.
Who would you say is your top athlete right now?
Well, I think internationally, Ollie's ranked 4th in the world, and every race he goes into, I see him as a medal contender in major championship races, and last year was his first international, races. Really, like, he learned a lot, and he was great every time out. For him, his worst race of the year was probably the Olympic final, but he still made the Olympic final, was 11th, and as a 24-year-old first-year pro who really hadn't done anything, before. It was kind of crazy that he was disappointed with that. But he came back out of that season and really, he learned a lot about the mental aspects, I think, of championship racing, which, even doing that in the NCAA, it's just a different ballgame than being in the Olympic Village. But he came right back out, and he finished 4th in the Diamond League final, 2nd in Brussels, and ran well at Pre. So he had just such an amazing year. And Joe was so consistent last year too. Joe Klecker. He was incredibly consistent. He made a huge jump in where he had been from college, but he really he was just very consistent. And then Alicia, she's really just incredible. She's kind of got all the tools, to be an amazing runner for many years. And I think mentally and physically, she's incredible. Like, she goes out every time, and she's going to show up and do some. If she's fit and healthy, she's going to do great. And so, and Jordy Beamish ended up coming on really strong at the end of the year, and he's just trained amazing this past fall and winter. So, Sage is training great. They're all very good runners. It's like we're looking forward to them actually lining up and racing now. We got 4 of them going pretty soon here in the first race, and Alicia kind of kicked things off for us at NCAA or at USA Championships last weekend, and yeah, we're just ready to go, I think.
I'm curious, Dathan, are you worried at all that they had such a good year in 2021 that it's going to be hard to top in 2022? I think that one of the things that runners don't often understand, particularly younger runners. You're retired now, so you had those it's hard to realize eventually you kind of don't keep improving every year necessarily. And sometimes you have to stabilize for a year or two before going to the next level. So are you worried that could be a problem? Like, everyone's like, oh, we did great. But when you do great, that means everything went well. What really impressed me was how everybody was PRing in September. Alicia, September PR, Ollie, September PR at the very end of the season. But are you worried it might be hard to replicate almost a perfect season in 2022 and build on that?
It can be, there's expectation now, I guess. And so the first year out, you kind of get a mulligan, I guess. If you really suck, then, you can always lean back on that, but to me, I think that they've really bought into the program a lot and trust me a lot. And so I think that trust has helped, overcome some of that, because we came off the season, and like anybody else, the ones that went all the way into September, like, you have to get ready for that. And that's probably a difference from, all of them were coming out of, pretty much all of them except for Leah, like maybe, and Emily, those are the only ones that weren't coming off from a standard NCAA season where you end in June. Really the best racing, even this year going forward, it's half the best racing is after the World Championships. And so we have to be prepared for those things. And so, that's why, like, they came off from last year's races, and the ones that raced really well, for, that half of the team that was really going strong in September. Yeah, there was a few of them that took a little bit longer to get going. Like, I'll be honest, like, even Ollie, like, he ran 13:09 at BU. It took him until about 2 weeks before for me to convince him that we should do this race. Like, he took a little bit to get going. He was, like, there was just a long year, but I could tell he was training well, but he just wasn't, like, happy getting his ass kicked by by Joe and Jordy, like, you know, in long fartlicks and stuff. And then finally, like, but Ollie's such a competitor that he just flip it on, you know, like, and you could tell, like, I mean, the funny insight is like Jordy was training so well all year, and he was injured early in the year, right when he came, you know, back from New Zealand. And so he came on strong at the end of the year, but just kind of ran out of time, you know, earlier in the year. But he came out and he has a lot of fire going right now. And he was really, you know, like training really well. And Ollie was just, you know, like he was getting dropped by workouts by Joe and Jordy. And then, but he just he shows up on the start line and he's good and ready to go. And now he's, you know, like he's got a lot of fire and determination. I think we're going to hopefully go into World Indoors, and he sees himself as making that big jump this past year. Now, if he can carry that through into the championship year, he has that experience. And so, so I think, you know, like for him, the expectation has grown now. Like he sees the next jump as, okay, I want to go to the World Championships and, you know, actually have my best race at the final, you know, this year. You know, like Joe, you know, Joe's a little banged up right now, but he had a great, you know, training block all through the fall. He was actually much fitter probably than Jordy and Ollie even. But, you know, like there's not a lack of motivation there. And Alicia too, she just stepped out and ran, you know, amazing at cross. And a lot of it, like they haven't been on the track hammering like last year. We kind of had to chase these standards and stuff. Like the expectation to get to the Olympics was that you had to have the standard. Well, a lot of them have the standards now. And so it changes a little bit. And so for me, it's more about like maintaining like enough, like I said this before, like they don't lack for motivation. They're all self-motivated, but making sure that motivation is like at the most highest point in the summer. That's important, I think. And so everybody comes at it a little bit, you know, in a different spot. And, you know, if you're, it's fine to run well this time of the year, but like still knowing that the end goal is, you know, July through to September, that's important. And so I think I try to manage those expectations a little bit on a case by case basis, just because everybody is in a different spot.
From a coaching standpoint, do you think there's anything to the theory that you really benefit right when you switch to a new coach? I mean, you had a number of coaches, but I'm just thinking back, like when you switched to Salazar within a number of months, that was the summer you set the American record in the 5,000. So the new stimulus, you knock it out of the park.
I think it's a 50-50. You know, some people do if they stopped responding to the stimulus they had before as much. So I would say, you know, like that you can, but you also hear a lot of times where they're like, well, it's a new system. It'll take a year for you to get. So it can go either way, really. And I think I've seen that even on my team, honestly. Like some people respond, you know, like right away. And some people, it just takes a little bit. And honestly, like consistency and health is probably the most important thing. And so like I'm seeing that with Jordy right now. Jordy was never really very healthy. He was never healthy for more than 3 months at a time. And now he's almost at a year. And all of a sudden you're seeing the changes and the gains that, you know, like he could probably forever run, you know, three months at a time and run 3:37 or, you know, 13:30. But once he strings together 9 months and a year, all of a sudden he's running 13:12. And I think he's going to run really fast indoors. And the consistency is everything, and it grows your confidence. And, you know, like some people grow confidence off from good workouts. Someone like Jordy just grows it. I mean, obviously the workouts help, but like when he can look back and say, I've never been this healthy in my life, that helps his confidence, you know? So each person finding what they, you know, what makes them, you know, like really tick, I think is important, because if you can kind of just honestly confidence, like the mental part is so much of it. Like everybody, the physical part, the training, I mean, a lot of people don't do a whole lot of different stuff. Like it's pretty based, you know, like it's pretty, you have to have the same things in every system to be successful. But really, if they're confident and they believe in what they're doing, you'll see them be able to go to that place that makes great races. Whereas, you know, they're not, you know, they're just not going to cave. They're going to get the most out of themselves on that day.
So one of the things we're trying to do with this series is check in with, you know, the top pro groups, the top coaches from across the United States. How do you guys view your role within that ecosystem? Is there a rivalry between the pro groups? Like when you see a Bowerman athlete or now a Union Athletics Club athlete on the line, is your team really trying to beat them and try to be the best pro group? Is there a rivalry between the groups? How do you guys fit in?
It's probably like, I think every group probably will. I think, yes, there's probably healthy rivalry, but it's a small world where there's like a camaraderie. So camaraderie, like when we go to maybe to like in Europe, like we're just spending time with the other groups, the other people, like you're traveling. It's like a traveling circus. You go to the same places. I mean, you guys kind of know how it is. Like we go and we see the same coaches, the same agents, the same journalists, it's like these same people travel all over the world. And so you sit and you have dinner with your competitors is maybe different from some other sports. And so that's probably something that's unique about running. But like anything else, like I look at my group of 10 people and I say, I want them to be the best, like that's a competitive nature. And so I don't want anybody to do bad. Like I don't root against anybody. I just want us to be better. Like I want them to do really good. And I want us to be better too, and I think that's like a healthy competition and the closeness of the groups. I mean, a lot of it is like these other coaches they're my friends too, like I sat with Coogan and Jerry Schumacher in Tokyo, the three of us with nothing that we could do to help our athletes. And we just sit there and talk for a couple hours. And so it's a small world, and if you insulate yourself and you're not, and you don't make friends with those people just because they're your competitors, then you're going to be an outcast real quick in the sport.
Yeah. One thing I got to ask you though is Pete Julian's group finally got a name, and we found out it was the Union Athletics Club. And to me, that name sounds a lot like the On Athletics Club. When you heard the name, did you guys just think they ripped you off? What was your reaction?
I mean, our OAC stands on its own. I mean, like right now, the guys have they've taken ownership and they've really done a great job. The women too. Pete's a friend of mine too. But sometimes these things are corporate things too. And so, but like OAC came first. So, I hope that the Union Athletics Club does great. But like I said before, like, I guess the OAC is, like we were here first, but they can have that name. That's all right. I'm okay with it. Me and Pete are close. So that's all right. No big deal.
Obviously, the big meet this year is the World Championships in Eugene. That's what people are going to be targeting and peaking for. But do you guys have any other meets or big goals that you, as a group or your individual athletes, will be targeting and going after?
So some of them are really in great shape right now, and I think we're going to have a good group of people trying to make World Indoors. So Ollie and Jordy. And then, I hope Alicia, like she's going to have to run U.S. championships. They only take 2 people, so it's going to be hard, but she's in really good shape. So I'd like to see those 3 for sure run World Indoors. And then we have a couple of new people and people that need the standards. So like Carmela, she's running great. She's really doing well from training with Alicia, but it's a big step up for her as well. So we need to get her standards still. So that'll probably be a priority for her. Joe, I think it's going to be a dogfight to make the 10K team. So all focus will be right there on making the 10K team, which is a little earlier this year. It's May 20th. So it's 5 weeks before the rest of the U.S. championships. I really need to get so Leah and Carlos have been banged up, and Leah had a really good year. All the way straight up until through the summer, and we all know what happened at the trials, but she came back and ran 9:15 afterwards. But she tore her plantar a little bit in Stockholm in that race, and so it was kind of been a little rough for her. But she's actually coming back and training again. And Carlos as well. We had some problems. He has like an ankle problem that has been, for pretty much the whole year was it's one of those things that you could kind of train on, but it never was getting better. It was dysfunctional. And So it's been a while, and so for the two of them, I don't see them racing indoors. Really, my hope is just to get them healthy and have an outdoor season. And so that's kind of the goal for them. And then Morgan as well. Morgan went to the Olympics, beat up for sure. He had sprained his ankle back in almost a year ago, like in February, down in Austin. There was that freak ice storm, and he sprained his ankle really bad. And it was pretty significant. So, he had some problems kind of all year. He gutted his way onto the team, and I give him credit for that for sure, to get onto the team the way he did. But likewise, we have been very cautious in his return, and it's to get him back to the point where he can train with Joe and Jordy and Ollie right now. Like, we just have to know that it'll be a little bit of time. So those three, we really are trying to get them just healthy and ready for outdoors. And then the rest of them, like the ones that are really fit, we'll try to run World Indoors. And then the other ones, we try to chase the standards and be ready in the, I guess the early summer to try to make the team for the World Champs.
You mentioned the 10K trials in May. Do you like that, having them earlier than the regular US championships?
Yeah, I do really. I think that it's for a few reasons. Definitely, it gives it its own, moment. And sometimes, like the trials can get lost. Like some things can get lost, and the 10K is still like a long race, and like on TV it might get cut out. You might not see it, and so I like that for sure. I like that it's farther away from the World Champs, because the World Champs, it was going to be a very quick turnaround, and I think that it does give us a really good chance to. So if you want to double, there are athletes that do the 5K and the 10K. It makes it probably safer for them to do so, and so otherwise, I think we run the risk of getting people on the team, and then they're either tired or hurt at the World Champs because they had to do that double, which is very hard, turn around and do it again 3 weeks later. And so I think for all those reasons, I think that it was a great decision to make it earlier.
All right, last one from me here. I think Robert might have one as well. 2021 was your first full year as the head coach of this team. You had coached some athletes in the past, but this was your first full year running a pro group. What was the biggest thing you learned?
Man, it's the emotional toll at times can be hard, I think. And so I definitely had to be conscious of that. I think I put a lot of energy into the team and a lot of energy into, like, I think that the team actually, they feed off of that energy, and they can tell if I come with a lot of it. And some coaches aren't like that. Some coaches maybe, that you have to do what you're best at. And for me, it's the best thing is to work with a small group of people and be super invested. And like, they're like family almost. And so I think, like we created that bond. And so I have to be conscious of that, because I could easily be overwhelmed, I think, if I tried to change a lot of it. Like if we tried to grow the team a lot bigger, or if I just, didn't come with the same passion, I think that would wear off to the rest of the crew too. And so I'm like super aware of that going in, and also knowing that there's a lot goes into it. I mean, I traveled to, a third of the year I was gone at least, and so I have to know like I probably need to do a better job of trusting them now that we've established this, to do the things that they know that I would want them to do. And but we basically built this thing out like through just hard work out of scratch a year and a half ago. I mean, it was literally, we just clawed our way to it, and we signed the right people. Now I need to trust that it will continue to, it will continue to work. Like we know each other better, because I'm not that I'm a micromanager, but like I always feel like there's more that I can do. And so I need to know that, going forward, like to make it really good and sustainable, I need to be able to have that same passion. And so I need to probably be able to trust them, to make those decisions as much as well. And I do have people that help me. I mean, I'm very, like my boss, Steve DeCoker, Andy Weeding, and our crew, we've hired a lot of people in Zurich, which I trust a lot. Whereas last year, I mean, we were just kind of like coming up with this. I mean, On's a really new company, and this was a huge endeavor for us to really go into a full team like this. And so we were just going nonstop last year, and we've hired a team, that really I think is giving us a good opportunity, and there's a good vision now. Steve takes a really big role. Me and him are in constant communication, and so I think knowing that support, like same thing, even the team. I have therapists that work on them. Like those people, I can count on and rely on too. And things are working really well now. And so, whereas last year, I mean, we were just like, we need someone there, boom. We need this, boom. Like, and we're doing it. Like we were building it. We have something good built now. And so now we need to be able to trust it and really be able to focus, on the goals, which is for this year, first goal is world championships, and then we count backwards, maybe it's world indoors for some people, Diamond League finals, and knowing that, we've signed everybody on this team looking at Paris, and as a brand really looking all the way to LA. Those are like big goals for On and for the OAC. And so this first group of athletes, like, well, they crushed it this year, and they kind of exceeded our expectations in some way. And so, like something I'm super proud of. I think we got the right people for it.
Yeah, that's great. Let me give you some advice that actually Morgan McDonald's coach, Mick Byrne from college, he told me when I was a young coach, he said, Robert, you can't want it more than the athletes, and because I think a young coach, you can become so invested, and some of it, you have to leave it to them. I mean, it sounds like these guys are self-motivated, but
no, you're right. I honestly just talked to Mick 2 days ago, and he gave me some really good advice, and that's actually something that I try to make sure I do. Like, I know that we had a lot of success, and I know my people and my team well, but if I can get the ear of someone, like if I can just talk, like if it's me and Wetmore, I try to get some pearl of wisdom from him. If it's me and Jerry Schumacher and I get a moment, I try to get something from him because they've been successful, like those coaches have been successful. And, we did a lot out of hard work here this year, but I don't want to stop there. Like I want more, and you're right. Like I can't want this for them more than they do. Like they have to really want it, but I can show them what like, that I can lead them in a certain way and then hope that catches fire to them. And I think that's one of the things that I'm going to take forward, like with me is that I'm never going to just sit on the sidelines. That's not my personality type. My personality type, like I'll be running around, I'll be yelling. It might not matter, but that's kind of like who I am. And that's what makes me good at that. And so just like that, I need to know what makes them good. And I'm not going to change those things. Like there might be things that we can change, but like never going to take away those things. Like you always have to, like, I'm a really big believer in whatever makes you good. Like you still have to focus on that thing. Like we're not going to pick other little things. And so same thing for me, like what makes me good as a coach or what makes them good as athletes, like we're going to prioritize those things. And I think so going into 2022, like that's a big lesson learned. And then if I can just continue to get better at the other things slowly, that's great. But like, I'm still going to focus on those things. And I want the team to really focus on what makes them good too.
Well, this has been amazing, but I think we want to trying to hold ourselves to a 30 minutes flat, and we're like 29:30. So one final question. The season was amazing. I mean, you said it yourself, might have even exceeded expectations, but what was the biggest disappointment? And was there anything that you think you got wrong and need to improve on in 2022?
Well, I mean, definitely a disappointment personally for me was, when Leah didn't, like she looked like she was going to make the team. I mean, she was well clear and, with less than 2 laps to go. But I think, that was personally devastating for me and her, I think, just because it was really like rebuilding a person who was, like it took us a couple of years to get back to that point. And so, yeah, that was tough, for sure to swallow that pill. But I think going forward, like I have to also know, like, they won't all be great, performances, but we can be great a lot of the time, like almost like most of the time. And if we put them in the right mental situation, like that mental part is important. Like I said, confidence is everything. And so just knowing every athlete's a little different. And that's why I don't, like I said, I don't want to change like getting too big, because I can really focus. And I think that relationship's super important with the athletes. Like if they can trust me and they can talk to me, like, about them specifically, because we do have this team, like the team is very important. That team model, that like we run this almost like a professional sports team. Like we're together 5-6 days a week. But also knowing like they're very individual goals and very individual people. And I want to keep that going. I don't want to have a big blanket program. I want to have the best program for Ollie and the best program for Alicia and the best program for Leah, whoever it is. Like, I want them to know like they're going to get the same amount of, thought into what's best for them. And so I think, that's probably just something that's it's not that it's a disappointment, but like I always feel bad. Like if we turn people away, we have a lot of interest in the team, and I always feel bad. I always want to help someone, but I also have to know like we have to have the right people, and we have to know like what's best for the people we already have too. And so yeah, like, I don't know, that's kind of a tangent, I guess, but like, I think that came off from Leah's situation, like, because like knowing her situation has changed too, like this year we do have to do a little bit of that rebuild again, whereas we were already past that, like we got her back to running 9:15, and that's okay. Like, like we have to be able to make sure that we do the best for every individual. And so going forward, I think that's what I want to do.
All right. Well, Dathan, we really appreciate the insight into the team. Looking forward to seeing what you guys can do the rest of the season. Hope the training camp goes well in Florida, and we'll see you at the Millrose games at the end of the month.
Thanks, guys.